What's up, guys? Orca's here, and today we got another video. Today we're doing a new video. I don't know if you guys remember my top 10 Clone Wars bounty hunters video, but today we kind of got a similar video. We got Clone Wars Jedi, top 10 Clone Wars Jedi ranking. So similar to the top 10 bounty hunters episode or video that I did, just with Jedi. And honestly, I can see why I did bounty hunters first, because ranking the Clone Wars Jedi like best to 10th was really hard to do, and even leaving some Jedi out of this was really hard to do as well. I mean, I'll admit it. Ranking the Jedi 2 through 4 was really hard, and then ranking the Jedi 7 through 10th was really hard. So really the only easy options that I made was 1, 5, and 6. Those were like the easiest ones that I did. 2 through, like I said, 2 through 4 and 7 through 10 were really hard to rank. So, and then again, like I said, leaving some Jedi out was really hard to do. But I have it. I have the list. Top 10 Clone Wars Jedi, 1 through 10, 1 being the best, 10th being the worst, obviously. And I think this is going to be a pretty fun video. I wish I did this a little bit sooner, but now that I'm done with my season episode ranking, and I still have to do my Clone Wars every episode ranked all together, I figured that I'd start with a little more simple one that won't take as long to make a video for with this. So let's get into it. And I do have some honorable mentions as well. So let's get to the honorable mentions first. We got Ki-Adi-Mundi, very prevalent in the show. One of the only Jedi that had speaking roles in the prequel trilogy, only with Mace Windu, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda, I think, being the only other Jedi that had speaking roles. So that interesting to see him here. Had a lot more roles in this show. Pretty decent character. I would say he represents some of the worst of the Jedi, but I still think, he's a decent Jedi, despite what, Legends, EU heads will make you think. But I still think he's an alright Jedi. Obviously, he did make some mistakes like every other Jedi, but I think he's fine. Then I'll just get to some brief ones. We got Khalifa, Omir, and Jinx from the Ahsoka captured arc in Season 3. They made a good team. We got the Season 5 younglings from the Youngling arc, including people like Gunji, Nax, I think one of the guys' names was. I'm forgetting a lot of their names at the moment. You got Eth Koth. We see him in the Seleucami arc. He gets captured and then gets rescued. We got Quinlan Voss, who shows up with Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Cad Bane and Zero the Hutt arc, so that was nice. We got Barriss Offee, best friends with Ahsoka Tano, who's pretty prevalent in Season 2, and then obviously in Season 5. She's one of the only Padawans on this list. Then you got Luminara Unduli, Barriss Offee's master. Really good Jedi master. She was really hard to not include in the top 10, but the top 10, just the last ones just barely edged her out. Like, I really like Luminara in the Clone Wars. Again, another Jedi that really gets a lot of flack and, a lot of hate, but I think she's a really good Jedi, I think better than Ki-Adi-Mundi, honestly, and honestly one of the better Jedi. Of course, we know in Season 7, the way she handled Trace and Rafa's parents' death was a little bit iffy, but I think that just goes to show how detached the Jedi were. I don't think it's a really horrible stain on her character. Just shows how detached the Jedi became. I still think she's a good Jedi. Then you got Tera Sinube, who appears in that one Season 2 episode with Ahsoka Tano, helps her learn patience, gets her lightsaber back, and is really cool in that one episode. Just didn't have enough, more moments to make me put him in the top 10. You got Adi Gallia, who appears in a good amount of episodes, is in the Seleucami arc, rescuing Eth Koth, and a lot of other stuff. She's a council member until she dies in Season 5. Spoiler alerts. Really good fight that she had with Savage Opress. And we see her also get captured by Grievous. And, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but, General Grievous gets a lot of bad words for being weak in the Clone Wars, but he did successfully well at killing Jedi off screen and on screen. He captures Adi Gallia in season 5, and it's only because of C-3PO R2 in a rescue mission held by Plo Koon that she's rescued. So we can assume that she was defeated by General Grievous in combat, or, you know, just had the advantage on her with droids as well, like he did with Eth Koth. But, you know, Grievous is still a very big force to be reckoned with. In season 1, we see that he's murdered so many Jedi. He kills Nadar Veb pretty easily when Nadar Veb is a Jedi Knight now. Like, say what you want about Grievous, but I think he is properly rated in the Clone Wars TV show. Not the 2003 one, the 2008 one. I think he is properly rated in the 2008 one. Yes, it's annoying that he gets captured a lot and has to run a lot, and it seems like the Jedi always beat him, but, you know, that's just what I think. I think he's properly rated. That's a tangent, though. Back to the Jedi. Ima Gundi, in the season 3 arc, really gets a chance to shine. And unfortunately, you know, his sacrifice is worth it, though. It's not in vain. The Twi'leks on Ryloth, the Twi'leks on Ryloth get their supplies. They live to fight another day, all because of Ima Gundi's sacrifice. He is really good in that episode, despite me not really even liking that episode all that much because of the Jar Jar side plot. But I still think he's a worthy Jedi to be put on the honorable mention. So with that said, though, that's all my honorable mentions. So let's get into the top 10. So at number 10, I think this one was easier than 7th through 8th, actually, but still pretty hard to put her here. And I say her because the Jedi I'm talking about is Shaak Ti. Shaak Ti, really good Jedi. We see her in season 3. She's very prevalent in the Domino Squad episode where she's, you know, kind of coaching and training Domino Squad and really gives them some really good life lessons. She's a really good teacher. She's almost like a mother figure to the clones since she's stationed on Kamino so much as a Jedi. She's part of the Jedi Council as well. And, you know, based on Legends material, she's actually like one of the strongest Clone Wars Jedi. Like, if you guys know Evan Nova, he ranks, does a lot of versus battles, does a lot of power rankings, and, you know, Shaak Ti, pretty high up there. So she's a pretty freaking good Jedi, very powerful, very strong. We see her in the Defense of Kamino episode in episode 2 of season 3. She's pretty sick in that episode. And then we see her in the 5's arc as well, still being stationed on Kamino. Plays a pretty prevalent role in that. And I like how Shaak Ti, you know, she's a Jedi. Obviously, you know, she doesn't let attachments get the best of her, but she's pretty good still. Like, she shows a lot of care and compassion for the clones. She comes to the defense of them when the Kaminoans are like, oh, they're just property. We can dispose of them whenever we want. We can do whatever we want with them. But Shaak Ti is like, no, these are human beings. You can't just do whatever you want with them. Even though you created them, that doesn't mean basically you're God. Like, you're not God to them. You may have created them, but they're human beings. They're individuals. Just because you created them from science and genetics and whatever doesn't mean you can do whatever you want with them afterwards. Like, I really like that from Shaak Ti. Coming to their defense a lot, really gives Domino Squad encouragement. Tries her best to hear 5's out, but, you know, it didn't work out that well, you know. Unfortunate circumstances in the 5's arc. I think she could have done a better job trying to investigate what really happened, but, you know, it's the Jedi. Like, this was always meant to happen. The Jedi had become too closed off to seeing the truth, and it's just unfortunate what happened with them. But again, Shaak Ti, really cool Jedi. She's at number 10. And at number 9 is Aayla Secura, who... This was a tough fight between Shaak Ti and Aayla Secura, actually. I think this was a pretty tough one. It was back and forth between the two, but I don't know why. I just like Aayla Secura more, and no, it's not for reasons that you guys are thinking of. Get your minds out of the gutters. But I think she's really good. The moments she has with Ahsoka Tano in season 1 with the lemur the Lemur Planet arc where they crash land on the planet and get back. I think the moments she has with Ahsoka is really cool, and I just really like her personality and character. I really like her French dialect as well. Again, I think Twi'leks just have a really good design. Like, obviously, one of the most iconic species in Star Wars. And again, like I said, the moment she has with Ahsoka when she's talking about like letting go and not having attachments, I think it's really cool how she can, relate to Ahsoka. And, even though you might say that they're wrong with their beliefs, they're still, pretty good. Well, maybe good isn't the right word, but I think it's interesting to hear them out on their belief system. Like, well, of course we don't have to agree with it, but I still think it's really interesting to hear them out. And I think there is really some truth into what the Jedi say about attachments, not letting them like control you and, make you do things that you shouldn't do. And it makes sense because Ahsoka, with her attachment to Anakin, when the ship is like crashing and they're making decisions on what to do, how to go about things, I think, Ahsoka's attachment at first really gets in her way, and, she starts making bad decisions or is not making the right choices, and Aayla Secura has to tell her the right things to do, and they end up being the right things despite what we would want to believe about, Ahsoka's love and attachment for Anakin being the number one priority and right thing to do. But sometimes that's really not the case. When you need to survive, when you need to do the right thing, sometimes attachments and feelings for other people can get in the way. And I think Aayla Secura did a really good job explaining that, showing her the right way. And, she relates to her. She has compassion for her. She says she went through the same thing with her own master, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know what it is in canon, but I'm pretty sure Quinlan Vos is her master in like Legends or something. So I think that's really cool, and especially when you know how Quinlan Vos is in canon and in Legends, that makes it all the more interesting. So she has that connection with Quinlan Vos, who's like one of the most maverick Jedi, even more maverick than Qui-Gon, I would say. It just comes to an interesting story for Aayla Secura, and of course, a lot of people like her as well, and I don't even want to get into it. But at number 8, we got Even Piel, and you guys might be surprised at this one, but I really think Even Piel really made a good stand, a really good showing in the arc he was in with the Citadel arc. I just really like his character, and there's something about certain accents and voices that characters have. Aayla Secura with her French accent, and Even Piel with his like Russian accent. I love his Russian accent. It might be my favorite voice in Star Wars, to be honest. I just love it. I'm pretty sure he even says like comrade and stuff. I love that. I love when Star Wars isn't afraid to do stuff like that, where it's clearly, very clearly, accents that are on Earth, but I think they still really work for Star Wars. Like, you got a lot of English accents in Star Wars with like Imperial officers and stuff, and that's very prevalent throughout Star Wars, not even just the original trilogy. It continues into projects like Rebels and stuff. So I really think that's cool. Again, Even Piel's voice is really cool, but other than that, I really think he's a good Jedi. Really, strong. He's very serious. Like, you can tell he still has compassion for people too. He's, I don't know, what's the word? Maybe masculine is the right word. I think he is, even for someone of such a short stature, kind of like Yoda, I really think he puts on a good personality and a good showing of what it means to be a Jedi and, just a man in general. I think he really did well in this arc. So not much else to say about him. I just really liked how he was, and his death really hit me hard, and a lot of people complain about it. But I just remembered this. I just thought about this because I was watching a video the other day. I can't remember what video it was, but everyone gives Even Piel flack for dying to an Anuba, but you got to remember, Even Piel was in this Citadel prison being tortured, mentally, physically drained of everything for like weeks in this Citadel prison, and he still managed to put up pretty good fights against droids and everything. And honestly, it doesn't bother me the fact that he died to an Anuba, just a simple dog bite. You gotta know what he was going through. Again, weeks of mental and physical torture. His body, his spirit, force Force usage was probably all drained. Like I don't think he was like at his peak performance at all, and he still managed to put up a good fight. But again, his death, very sad, and I think it works very well. Just again, it makes me emotional seeing his death. Not gonna lie, like it's a pretty tough moment, especially when they do like the whole funeral for him, and they put his body down like the lava fall. It's pretty emotional stuff. Like it's very hard, but I like it. I like how they did Evan Peele's character. Another cool Jedi addition. I know he's in the prequels, but they didn't do anything with him. So seeing him have moments in this show, really good. I really liked it. So he's at number 8. At number 7, we got Kit Fisto. Another really good Jedi. I really like Kit Fisto. Signature smile, Nautilin, really cool character design. I love his personality. One of the better Jedi in the Clone Wars, honestly. Jedi are, serious, strong-minded, but, even with that, Kit Fisto always seems to keep it light and, joyful. And I think that's a really cool addition. A lot of Jedi are pretty serious, especially in the prequel trilogy. You got Mace Windu, Obi-Wan, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Yoda. They're all very serious. They don't really seem to have a lot of, standout character moments, in my opinion, except for them, being like religious monks, almost very serious, stoic, wooden, people might say. But I really like Kit Fisto in this show. Like, he really keeps it light, really good tone. I like it. It's a different personality for a Jedi, and I really like it. His battle with Grievous in season 1, really cool. His moments with Nadar Veb. Again, like I said, he keeps it light and joyful, but he also knows how to be a Jedi, like teaching Nadar Veb, rebuking him when he's making a lot of mistakes, when Nadar Veb is acting not how a Jedi should act, Kit Fisto's not afraid to rebuke him and everything, and I think that's really cool for a Jedi. But again, other than that, when he's taking on Grievous, he's just having a good time. When he pushes him down to the ground, the signature smile. When he's getting away, the signature smile. Very lighthearted with people. Really good person with Ahsoka in the season 2 Geonosis arc with the brain invaders. I really liked his moments with Ahsoka there. Still carrying on the signature smile through all that. Just a cool guy. Just a really cool guy. And it's no surprise a lot of people like Kit Fisto. Really nice addition. And then at number 6, we got Mace Windu. And Mace Windu, this might be a controversial opinion, but I think a lot of people like Mace Windu. They just don't like how he acts sometimes. But Mace Windu represents basically what the Jedi were like in the prequel trilogy. And, that's always who he was meant to be from the prequels to the Clone Wars. And even with the Clone Wars, I still think Mace Windu, for the most part, is a good character. I know people might not like the Jar Jar episode. Heck, I don't really like it either. It's okay. It's not the worst thing ever, but, I think we can all agree that it's not the greatest episode. But I like Mace Windu's moments in that arc sometimes. The fact that he's able to, respect Jar Jar in a way, get on his side, just the way he interacts with Jar Jar kind of earns his respect and is, a lot more patient and, kind and joyful with him, I guess. I don't really know other words to describe it, but you know what I mean. If you've watched that arc, he kind of gets along with Jar Jar at the end, and that's a lot more than what Anakin could say about that. And I like Mace Windu in this show, and of course there's a lot of mistakes he makes in this show, but that's what all the Jedi did. They made mistakes, and Mace Windu was one of them. But Mace Windu's power as well in the Ryloth arc. His episode in that arc was really good in my opinion. It really showed his power and kind of how he acts as a Jedi, and I think he did really well in that arc. How he negotiated with Cham Syndulla, with the Twi'leks, how he got Cham Syndulla to put his differences aside with Orn Free Taa, the senator for Ryloth. Despite all their differences, I think he handled that really well. And because of Mace Windu, they were able to win Ryloth and save all the civilians as well. And I think that's really cool about Mace Windu. You know, again, he could be a hard nose. He could be a lot more stricter than Jedi, but I think we all know people who are like that in real life. And, you know, I know worse people in real life. I mean, I know worse people in real life, and I still respect those people a lot where, you know, they're, you know, really mean. They can be really hard, but at the end, I think they just want what's best for some people. And I think Mace Windu is a good example of that. Sure, he went about it the wrong way sometimes, but I really do think he was in it. I think he was doing things for the greater good and what he truly thought was right. And for the most part, he was doing what was right. But, you know, again, the mistakes of the Jedi, the arrogance, the blindness that they had, some of the ways they went about things, some slight things like that is what caused their downfall. Mace Windu, obviously one of the bigger parts of that, but some of the stuff was also not in his control. Like, there's some things that he couldn't change. Again, you guys might know that I'm a pretty hard Mace Windu defender compared to most people. But yeah, there's also a moment in this show where he literally saves Anakin from dying, and I know that's what a classic normal Jedi would be, but you gotta know, like, Mace Windu doesn't even like Anakin all that much, and he still saved him. And honestly, I don't even know if it's that he doesn't like Anakin. I think it's just that, you know, he wants Anakin to be better, but he sees all the errors in Anakin's ways, and that's, you know, what kind of turns him against him. And I think he's trying to make him better. He just sometimes goes about it the wrong way. Sometimes being too hard on people isn't the right way to go about things. I think Mace Windu was doing that, and it just wasn't working. But I think he truly wanted what was best for Anakin. And, you know, it's not a Clone Wars moment, but in Revenge of the Sith, he was gonna make Anakin a Jedi Master after they captured Sidious. And, you know, for Anakin to be a Jedi Master at what, 21, 22 years old, that's a big thing. Like, I agree with Mace Windu in a lot of things that he did, honestly, even though others might not. I think he's a good example of a Jedi, and, you know, whether you want to make the sequels canon or not, I mean, Mace Windu is in some way part of the cosmic force. He is a Force ghost in The Rise of Skywalker when he speaks to Rey. Again, you might not want to consider that, you know, real Star Wars, but I think George Lucas would even say that Mace Windu was, you know, in a way, a good, decent Jedi, kind of like Master Yoda and Ben Kenobi. But what do I don't really know. I'm just rambling a lot about Mace Windu because I like his character. I really do like his character, and I don't like that he receives so much criticism, whether deserved or not. You know, I've always had a personal bias for Mace Windu, so that's kind of why. But he's at number 6. There's still 5 Jedi that I think that are better than him in this show, so let's get to them. And this is where it started getting really hard. This was such a hard decision, but at number 5, I got Plo Koon. So, I mean, he is a top 5 Jedi in the Clone Wars, and honestly, he might be a top 5 Jedi in Star Wars, to be honest, just because of the Clone Wars and what he has in, like, Legends material as well. I really like Plo Koon, one of my favorite Jedi in Star Wars. And number 5, this is where I would start putting people in S tier, by the way. Mace Windu, I would say, is an A tier, maybe A plus character, but now we get to S tier characters, and Plo Koon is right at the start of S tier. I really like his character. He saves the day multiple times in this show. He rescues Anakin and Mace Windu in the season 2 arc. He rescues the Zygerian enslaved people, the Togrutas from Zygeria, I guess. He is just a really good character. I really like characters like Plo Koon. I think Plo Koon, I just watched a video about, you know, the best Jedi, Clone Wars Jedi, I think, and this is where I got inspiration. I can't remember who made the video, but I watched a video on, like, the best Jedi. I can't remember if it was specifically Clone Wars Jedi or not, but Plo Koon was number 1 because of how he embodies the light side of the Force and what it truly means to be a Jedi. You could argue that Plo Koon was the best Jedi during the Clone Wars era. His compassion for others, his willingness to help other people despite being in a war. One of the best lines from him in in the Clone Wars is where they're trying to find Aayla Secura in the Boba Fett arc, and they go to this bar. He's talking with a bartender, and the bartender's like, "Aren't you Jedi too busy to be dealing with citizens on Coruscant?" And he's like, "We're never too busy for our citizens," or something like that. And again, just a really cool thing for Plo Koon. He's very compassionate. He does what's right. He was one of the only Jedi that was backing Ahsoka in the season 5 Ahsoka framed arc. Even though all the evidence was stacked against Ahsoka, he still he still voted for her. He still supported her. He voted against her being expelled and handed over to the Republic for probably a trial that would have caused her execution or life in prison, probably. He stood with her. He trusted her. And I think that's a really cool moment for Plo Koon. Again, one of the best compassionate Jedi. He valued his clones' lives possibly more than any other Jedi. Just a perfect example of what it means to be a Jedi. Amazing character. And, whenever I watch Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith, it definitely gets me emotional when I see him die. It'd be cool if they brought him back, and I know that Dave Filoni wanted to bring him back, but I think he respects George's wishes. I think George wants him to stay dead, and I think he will stay dead. And I respect that. I want to see Plo Koon. I want to see more Plo Koon, but I guess it can't be after Revenge of the Sith. Hopefully we get more Plo Koon content in the future. One of the best Jedi we have in Star Wars, honestly. So, yeah. And at number 4, we got Yoda. I think I had to put him here. I wanted to put him higher, but I just think the top 3, which you guys probably already know who's all in the top 3. You might not know the order, but you know the last 3. But I just had to put Yoda below them because he doesn't have as much content as the top 3. If he had more content, I would have put him like top 3 for sure, maybe even first. But I just don't think he does as much as the top 3. I love his arc in season 6, possibly my favorite arc in the show, either first, second, or third best arc in the show. But it's really only that arc where he does a lot. I know in the first episode of the show he does a lot too, where he's the main character, and he has his moments in other episodes and arcs as well. I don't think he's as prevalent as the top 3, so I couldn't put him higher. But just know, again, Yoda's one of my favorite characters in Star Wars as well. Like, he's possibly my favorite character in the original trilogy. I like him in the prequel trilogy, despite some of the issues I have with him in the prequel trilogy. But he really is one of my favorite characters, and he's an amazing character in this show. I just wish they gave him more stuff to do in this show other than the season 6 arc and the first episode of the show, which was very fitting, honestly. I've said this before, but I think it was very fitting, until season 7 came out at least. But for the original end of the season, or the show in general, the last arc was him as the main character, and the first episode of the show was him as the main character. I think that's a really poetic way to end a show, and yeah, just really cool stuff. I really love Yoda. I don't really need to explain anymore. But at number 3, this might be a little controversial, but I got Ahsoka Tano, and I'm just going to spoil it right now. I like Obi-Wan and Anakin more in this show. I'm sorry. But I really like Ahsoka too. Don't get it twisted. I mean, I like Ahsoka almost as much as anyone else in the Clone Wars. I like her as much as almost any other Clone Wars fan. Like, I really like Ahsoka. Her character growth. I've said this before too. Ahsoka has some of the best character growth in the entire show. Like, legit one of the best characters in the entire show. Her writing, her character growth, everything she goes through. It's great. It's some of the best character writing I've ever seen in a show, and a lot of people will probably disagree with that. It's like, oh, what, you've never watched Game of Thrones? You've never watched Breaking Bad? The character growth of it? Yeah, I get it. But yeah, I understand. This is like my favorite show, and I've watched this show like 3-4 times over completely. And again, I've never seen as much great character growth as Ahsoka, and especially her in season 7. Amazing stuff with her. Just a great character overall. There's really not much more to say. Easy S tier character, one of the best characters in Star Wars, period. as well as some of the best Clone Wars Jedi in this list anyway. And again, like I've said, all these people up here, like from Plo Koon, maybe even Mace Windu to number 1 on this list, they're not only some of the best Clone Wars Jedi, but they're some of the best Star Wars characters in general. Like, these are very serious, great characters. Like, the bounty hunter characters, they're cool and all, but most of them aren't like legacy Star Wars characters. Really, only like Boba Fett for Clone Wars bounty hunters is like a legacy character. Maybe you could throw in Cad Bane as well, but I mean, a lot of these Jedi, I would say from Mace Windu to Obi-Wan, they're all like legacy Star Wars characters, some of the most popular characters, some of the best characters in Star Wars. So this is a pretty big ranking video. Like, these are very serious Jedi. So at number 2, I have Anakin Skywalker. I just like him more than some of these other characters. I mean, he has some amazing character growth as well. I love Anakin's personality, and one of the things this show has done well, many people have said it, but it really expands on Anakin's character and why he turns out the way he does in Revenge of the Sith. You know, I'll give some, you know, sympathy or defense for George here, but 3 movies, especially when you have Anakin as a kid in one of them, I just don't think it's enough time to really explore Anakin's character and why he turns to the dark side, especially with everything else going on in these movies. But the Clone Wars had like plenty of time to expand on Anakin's character and why he is the way he is, and I think they did a really good job at that. Just a great character. And yeah, I really like Anakin in this show. It's one of the reasons Anakin has become one of my favorite characters. With the prequels, Anakin, I get it. Like, I get why people like him. I get why he does the things he does. But it seems rushed to me. Like, I can't see Anakin, you know, destroying all the Jedi, killing, massacring, slaughtering all the Jedi people he's known his entire life, especially children, when he's like freaking 20 years old. Like, I can't see it, but the Clone Wars does help in some sort of sense with that. And, you know, the way he gets manipulated by Palpatine, the Clone Wars especially, makes a lot more sense why he turns the way he does. It makes me understand him a lot more. The Clone Wars does a really good job at that. Millions of people have said that. I'm just like the second millionth person to say that. Like, I like him in this show, and I understand him a lot more because of this show. A lot of great moments for him in every season, basically. The way he gets attached to Ahsoka Tano, how he cares for people like Padme and Obi-Wan. It's explored so much more in this show, and of course his relationship with the Chancellor and how he becomes more and more distant from the actual Jedi Order as well. They nailed him in this show. Easy S-tier character, S+, almost a perfect character in this show. Just great stuff with Anakin. But at number 1, my personal bias strikes again. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He might not be the best character in Clone Wars, but man, my personal bias puts him at number 1. I love Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars show. I love his personality, his sassiness, as people would call it, but his humor. I love his humor. Probably one of the funniest characters in Star Wars, especially in the Clone Wars. I love his banter with Anakin and people like Ventress as well. Just a great character. I love Obi-Wan, of course. And one of the best things they did for Obi-Wan this show, if they didn't do this, he might not have become my favorite character in the Clone Wars. He's, and not just my favorite Jedi in the Clone Wars, he's my favorite character in the Clone Wars, as well as a lot of these other people. You know, there's only a few other people that aren't Jedi that are my favorite characters in the Clone Wars. The Jedi are my favorite part about the Clone Wars, as a matter of fact, I would say. I really love the Jedi in the Clone Wars because, again, I don't think the prequels did an amazing job at expanding the lore and stuff of the Jedi. Don't get me wrong, I like the prequels. I even love the prequels in some sense. I love Revenge of the Sith, and in some sense I love the other 2 prequels, but I just don't think they did an amazing job at expanding the lore and character of the Jedi. I really think the Clone Wars really nailed it with the Jedi, and I think they really nailed it with Obi-Wan too. And I'll go back to what I was saying, but I don't think he would have been my favorite Clone Wars Jedi, or even favorite Clone Wars character, if they didn't make him have a love story with Satine. I really think Obi-Wan's love story with Satine is some of the best romance they've done in Star Wars, despite it only being like a couple to a few episodes where you can really see their romance and their character moments together. You really only see it in season 2 a little bit, and then there's a lot of time where you don't really see them together until season 5. But I think what they do with him and Satine in season 2 is amazing. I can't remember if they do anything in season 3 with them, but there is moments where, where they reference where Satine references Obi-Wan as well in season 3, I think I remember. And then of course in season 5, I mean, we know what happens then, but Obi-Wan's story with her, I think, is some of the best romance story we've had in Star Wars. It's one of the things I've desperately asked for, but I hope we get more Obi-Wan and Satine in the future. Hey, I legit at one point in this year, I think, or sometime last year, but I was thinking they should make us a show or something about the two. You could have Tales of the Jedi Part 2, and you could have the story of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon with Satine on Mandalore, because with that one episode in season 2, we hear that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were stationed on a mission to protect her from bounty hunters and assassins and stuff, and that's how they kind of grew close to each other. I want to see that story told in animation or on television. I really want to see that story and how it unfolded. And he also got the rumors that Corky is Obi-Wan Satine's kid. I don't know how true that is. I've said this before. I sort of subscribe to that theory, honestly, but it might not be true. It's just a theory, but there's some pretty darn good evidence for it. But it's something. But again, Obi-Wan, one of my favorite characters, one of the true Jedi, and it's no secret why he's become so popular, especially in the Clone Wars. Just a great character overall. But with that being said, I think that's all I got for them. Those are my top 10 favorite Jedi. Also some honorable mentions. Just all great characters, honestly. All of these characters, all the ones I put in honorable mentions as well, I would say they're at least high C tier, some of them, and most of them are in the B tier. People like Imagundi, easy B tier, Eve Koth, B tier, Quinlan, B tier, Luminara, B tier. Ki-Adi-Mundi might be the only C tier person, and maybe some of the younglings as well. But yeah, I really like all these characters that I mentioned. A very important part of Star Wars. Again, like I said, Jedi are probably the most fascinating thing in Star Wars for me. The Jedi and the light side of the Force, some of the most fascinating stuff, if not the most fascinating thing for me in Star Wars. So I really like the Jedi, and it's no surprise to why I made this list, because I like them so much. So with that being said, I'll probably make another list. Maybe I'll make top 10 Clone Wars dark side users or something else, but I'll figure it out. Maybe it'll just be top 10 Sith. I don't know, but we'll see what I do next for Star Wars. It'll be the Skeleton Crew episode tomorrow, probably. Well, maybe it's Christmas tomorrow, so I don't know, but we'll see. You'll get another video. But with that being said, we'll see you in the next one.